let's get going with today's subject, which is all about questions and assessments. We'll be having a look at how you add a question into a Gomo course, and then the different ways that you can use questions and the range of questions that we have. And we'll be looking at how you turn a bunch of questions into an assessment. About how you can then set pass-fail boundaries, how you can report the score and question level data back to your learning management system. We'll also be looking at this whole area of completion. How do you tell the learning management system that a Gomo course is complete, including indicating that just from the assessment? And then, time permitting, we'll have a look at this whole area of question banks, about how instead of just having a fixed set of questions that the learner sees each time, we can be selecting a certain number of questions at random from different subject areas covered by the course. So really powerful technique. So lots to cover here. So do feel free to use the question panel that you'll see in GoToWebinar there. I'll try and monitor that as we go through. So let's start. So first thing I'm going to do, particularly don't worry if you're completely new to Gomo, I will be quickly building a course, giving you a bit of a guided tour of Gomo before we go into the main subject here of questions and assessments. So let's just start with the fundamentals. So Gomo is an e-learning authoring tool. It is completely cloud-based. You don't install any software. All you need is a browser and an internet connection. I happen to be on a Mac using Safari today, as you can see, but of course you could be under Windows using Edge or Chrome, or whatever your preferred platform or browser is. Gomo will work with that. So let's go into Gomo authoring itself. So I'm going into my team account. And so this is where I can organize my courses, maybe by team member or subject area. And I'm going to jump straight in here and I'm going to build a new course that we can use today. So what Gomo does here, it asks me some questions to get me up and running. We can change all of this later, but it's a quick and easy way to build a course. So first thing that I do is just give it a name. Once my keyboard wakes up. Okay, and then bear in mind as well that Gomo has great support for letting you create a single course containing multiple languages that the learner can simply switch between. And I cover this on one of the weekly webinars. So if that's important to you, do look out for that, including showing our new AI translation features as well, where it can link into your OpenAI account and give really naturalistic translations automatically. Today, I'm just going to create a single language course. This next step is about the look and feels, what we call themes in Gomo, the style template to reflect your brand, so the fonts and colors and so forth that are used there. And again, I go into this in some depth in the theme editor in a special session about theming. Today, I'm going to use a new theme that we're about to release called the Ponte theme. Nice, clean, modern design to it. And this is about the structure of a course. So a reminder that a Gomo course isn't just a PowerPoint deck where you start at the first slide and go through to the end slide. You can structure your Gomo course into this higher level building blocks, which we call topics. So typical example, I might have a topic about the company's history, another about the company's products and services and so on. We can link those topics together in different ways. So here I'm going to say I want an introduction, I want a menu, I might say I want 4 learning topics to start. These are the elements that appear in the toolbar, so they'll always be available to the learner as they move through the course. Today, I'm just going to take all the default settings there. So let's click Create. So Gomo's going to look at those initial choices about the number of topics in the theme. It's going to create an outline structure for me. And it's going to put in some sample content just to get us started. So here's our top level view. We've got an introduction topic leading to a menu. We've got simple branching out to the learning topics, and we're going to make one of these learning topics our assessment. But if we wanted to, we could have more complex structures. So we could have subtopics here. We could even have what we'd call adaptive learning or dynamic branching. And again, a popular example, which I cover in another one of these webinars, is that when the learner comes into the course, you can prompt them to select their job role or job function. Gomo can remember that choice in a variable. And again, using a technique called display conditions, where you can show and hide things on the screen based on certain things happening, then what the learner sees on any given screen, or even their whole journey through the course, can depend on the choice they made. So it's the same course, just looking, behaving differently depending on user selection. So again, one of those really nice, powerful techniques in Gomo. But we're going to jump straight in here today, and first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to say I want to make this topic here our assessment, where we're going to put in our questions and give feedback to the learner and so forth. And just a word about the way that you can use questions. You can add questions anywhere in a Gomo course, and just dotting them here and there in the course just to check the learner's sort of understanding and that they're awake and so forth. That's what we call a knowledge check question, where we're not formally scoring them and testing them. But here we're going to put all of our questions into one topic as the assessment. So the first thing I can do though is right click, just choose the settings, and I'm just going to label that as assessment. Always a good idea to label your topics and screens as you go along, almost like a sort of storyboarding sort of level here. So here's going to be my assessment topic. So let's just click on that to open it up. It's going to open another tab in the browser here. This is the editor view. So let's just have a quick look here. So on the left, we have the navigator panel. Gomo's added in 2 dummy screens. Obviously, we're going to change all of this. And then we have the asset tab. This shows us all the things that we can add into a Gomo screen. This wide range of interactions, including question types we can put in there. I'll also just note here that this really new feature that we've just released, we also have the new Gomo AI Assistant as well. And the way that this works is that you can link your own OpenAI account into your Gomo account, and then Gomo can work with you to help you do automatic translations, but also to help you create introductions, summaries for your topics. It can look at the content in your topic and suggest the learning objectives based on that. Also to be able to create conclusions as well. So this is all at the beginning of our adventure with our customers with OpenAI. And again, we'll be running future webinars on that subject. But if you see that appearing in your account, that's what it's all about. And if you have an OpenAI account set up, you can just link it into your Gomo account. Just search in our knowledge base for OpenAI there. But the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to get rid of these screens, as here I don't really need those. By the way, I can immediately preview these to see what they're going to look like. That we've got these preview tabs. Did something wrong there. And that's just going to apply the theme that I've chosen for today. But here I'm just going to delete the screens that we have in there. And now I'm going to just add in my own screen. So here at the bottom left, I can say add a screen. And I'm going to just spend a few seconds to label these. So I'm going to call this quiz intro, for example. Again, really useful to be able to label these, particularly your team members will thank you if they go in and start trying to maintain the courses you created. So first thing I'm going to do is just add in some text. So these are all the things that we can add in. I'm going to, in this case, I'm just going to add in just some plain text, but we've got lots of these pre-built interactions as well, things like film strips and carousels to show a sequence of images, associated text. You can have interactive images, say with the image markers, where you can click on different parts of the image, maybe to pop up more information or jump to different parts of the course. But first of all, I'm going to use the basics, which of course is some text. Drop that in there. Now I can just click say, just put in some text. I'm going to say, just click next to start the quiz. So this is usually where you'll be explaining what the quiz is about and that you've got to get 80% to pass and so forth. I'm going to make that just instruction text. And next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add in a screen, and I'm just going to label this. This is where we're going to put a multiple choice question, MCQ. So here we can just go into that split preview and I can see what this looks like. So things like that blue toolbar, that's coming from my theme that I can change in the theme editor and so on. So we can see that we're beginning to get a look to this. But here on this screen, I want to put the first question. Now, all of these questions might look very different to the learner, but from your point of view as learning designers, they're all set up in a very similar way. So let's go to the Assets tab. And we'll go to the question section here. And I'm going to use the most popular type of question, multiple choice question. So this is where you're going to present the learner with multiple choices, but only one of them is correct. So I'm also going to add in some text at the top there. So as you can see, we just drag and drop the elements. And so here I'm going to put in some text. So I'm going to, for speed, use the default multiple choice question here. Where is Gomo's headquarters? I can choose a style for that. That heading, maybe heading 2 there. And now I can just check how that's going to look. So here we go. We immediately see we've got a question. The styling is all coming from the theme. But let's actually have a look at how you set up the questions, because all of these questions are set up in a very similar way. So I'll just double click. The first thing that we can do is specify the number of attempts that the learner can have. So here, if I say they can have 2 attempts, if they get it wrong the first time, this is where I can pop a message. I can just put try again. And just a note here that you can see we have this basic and advanced tab. Wherever you see that in Gomo, the basic tab is just an easy way to be able to generate some feedback in what we call a subscreen pop-up window, essentially. You can just type some text in and Gomo will generate that for you. But that will always be, it can only contain text and it will always be a so-called reveal from bottom. So the feedback will always reveal up from the bottom there. If you want more flexibility in terms of the styling and the content, maybe you want some images or even video in there, you can create your own what we call the subscreens and link them in through the advanced tab. And again, you'll find lots of information about subscreens in our knowledge base there. But for today, I'm going to take the easy route and just put in some text into the basic and let Gomo do the rest. We've now got, as ever with the Gomo asset, it adds in 3 things for me to get me going. Obviously, we can change all of this. I can also add in more items. So you might have to scroll down to the bottom. You see at the bottom right there, I can add in another item. And I might add in something here. So maybe it's Atlanta. Now I need to tell Gomo which is the right answer, both in terms of whether the learner gets another go, if they get it wrong, if we've allowed multiple attempts, but also if this is part of a more formal assessment, whether a point's going to be added to the overall score. So here I'm going to say, yep, Brighton here in the UK, that's the correct answer for us. And this is also where I can give feedback to the learner. So yes, it's Brighton. And excuse my typing here. The other thing that you can do as well is, and for those of you who are already Gomo customers, we made it a bit easier because quite often you don't actually want to give any feedback. And this is where we have the option here in the advanced tab. I haven't created any subscreens, but I do have the option just to say no feedback. So that's quite a typical, say, in an assessment where you just want to show the learner a series of questions where they're going to answer, move on, and so forth. And you don't want to give them feedback about whether they got it right or wrong. You're going to save all of that to the end. So that's the option that you can now choose. It just simplifies it there. But for now, I'm going to just use the basic one. Also, I can choose to give specific feedback to a specific wrong question. So here I could say, no, it's not Atlanta. It's Brighton, England, for example. So here I've set this up. We've got our possible answers. We told Gomo which is the right one. We've allowed 2 attempts there. And now I can just apply that. Let's just check how that works. So here we go. Here we go into the preview mode. So if I get it wrong the first time, that's my reveal from bottom subscreen that Gomo's automatically generated. It said I can try again because I've got 2 attempts. So I reset that, so I've got 1 more go. If I get it wrong again, notice here I've run out of attempts, so it doesn't say try again. It just gives me that specific wrong feedback, complete with my typing mistakes there. Also, you can see that we've got these options there that if you want to, and this is set in the theme about whether you actually want to give feedback indicators to the learner as well. So a lot of flexibility there. So that's our first question. Let's quickly put in another question type, the second most popular one, which is select from list. So I'm going to add in another screen, label it, call it SFL, select from list. And now we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to add in the question text, the question stem by adding this from text there. So now what we're going to have is a question. Select from list means there are a list of options and you have to select the correct pattern. That one or more of those answers can be right. So you're looking for them to select all the right options, but not the wrong option. So here I'm going to say, which of the following are true of Gomo? Select one or more, for example. Okay, so I can have my text in there. Now I need to decide how to answer this. And this time in the question section on the left, I'm going to use select from list. And if I click here, again, Gomo's given me three things. I can have the number of attempts, and it's given me three options here, but I can add in others. So I'm going to add one that says desktop software. And also I can move the order of these, so I can nudge that up. I now need to tell Gomo which pattern of answers the learner should select. So the question I've posed is which of these is true of Gomo, select one or more. So it's true that we have hassle-free multi-device publishing, easily create interactive content. It's not desktop software, so I leave that unchecked and create beautifully bespoke content. That's true. So what we're looking for here is the learner to choose options 1, 2, and 4, but not 3. And here we can give feedback. I can do the usual thing, try again. Of course, we have the option of no feedback or linking in our own subscreens. And these are the messages if they get the right pattern or if they don't. So let's apply that. Let's have a look at how that works. Here we go. Now this time, notice that these are what we call checkboxes rather than the radio buttons to distinguish it from the multiple choice. So here you can see I can select one or more. And this time, if I select all of the options, now, because I also selected an option which was incorrect, that counts as wrong. So now I reset that, and now if I get exactly the right pattern of answers I specified, this time I get it right. Okay, so we've got two questions. We could add in as many questions as we like here, but the thing that's going to turn this bunch of questions into an actual assessment is the next screen that I'm going to add. I'm going to add in a blank screen. I'm going to label this as results. And now what we need to do is just to add in a very special asset. It's in the question section here on the left, and it's this one at the top, the assessment results asset. This is the thing that does all the hard work for us. It's going to add up the score, work out percentages, and so forth. So here, if I double click on it, the first thing that we can do is to put a pass mark. So I might say 50%. In this case, I've got two questions, so if I get one question right, I pass. And also, this is where we can give some feedback to the learner, just simple feedback here. I can say, for example, here, you didn't pass since you only scored whatever percent. And notice we've also got this simple markup, so we can actually say, well, you got sort of 1 out of 2 right. There, and we can put a percentage. We can also give a message if they get a particularly good mark. Here at the top, high pass mark defaults to 100. I can put you got them all right, and so forth. So really easy way to give feedback. And so we'll come back and have a look at these other options in just a moment. So let's just apply that. And now we go back to the navigator and let's just do a save there. And let's go into preview from the first screen. So the first thing we have, click next to start the quiz. So at the bottom here, I click next. Okay, first thing that we have, let's go with headquarters. Let's get this wrong, reset, get it wrong again. Go to the next one. This time I'm going to get this right, so I'll choose the right pattern. And now here, it moves on to the results screen, and it's worked out that I got 1 out of 2 right, and that amounted to 50%, and I've actually passed there. So the key thing there is to turn those questions into an actual assessment. You add in the screen with the results screen there. Let's just explore these other options a bit further. The first one is to set the course score. What that is doing is sending the score to the learning management system. So you need to make sure you tick that to send it to there. The reason that's an option is that sometimes our customers don't want to send a score to the learning management system. But if you do, make sure you tick that. The other thing is about course completion, and this is really important. That we're talking about when does a Gomo course tell the learning management system that it's complete. Now, let's go back to what we call the course structure view. That by default, a Gomo course marks itself as complete when the learner has visited every screen in every topic. So they just work their way through the content. And once they've looked at every screen, Gomo automatically tells the LMS that the course is complete. If that's the behavior that you want, you don't need to do anything else. That's what Gomo does automatically for you. However, there are times when you might say, well, actually, I don't really care whether they've looked at all the learning topics. What I'm interested in is have they passed the assessment. So that's why we have this option here to say set course completion. And we can choose what's being sent back to the learning management system there. It can either just send back whether you've passed or failed, or we also have this option here, which will say only mark the course as complete if the learner has passed the assessment. And that's because some learning management systems, for example, Cornerstone, um, that if the course remains incomplete, then the learner can redo the course. But if it's marked as complete, it can move it out of the learner's library so they can't do it again. So check with your LMS administrator to see what the LMS will be expecting. But that's where you get that flexibility about triggering completion. Okay, so here we've got our assessment. And it's all fine. And the learner can just work through the questions. The problem with this is it's a fixed set of questions. So every learner will see the same questions in the same order. And that can be problematic, particularly, say, in compliance training. There have been high profile cases of companies getting fined basically for cheating, that word gets around, well, the answer to question one is option C and so forth. But we can begin to overcome that using the notion of question banks. This is where we can set up sets of questions relating to different areas covered by the course, and we can select a certain number at random there. So let's just go and have a look at how that works. And by the way, particularly those of us who've joined us after the start, please feel free to ask questions in the question panel there. Can't see any at the moment yet, but do just pop them in there if you do have any comments or questions. So what I'm going to do here is, first of all, I'm going to set up my sets of questions, the question banks. And we do that by going to the top to actions. And what I need to do here is this special option here to say add content bank. And again, to existing Gomo users who are thinking of using question banks, make sure you don't just say add a new topic. That question banks are a very special type of topic, and it's called a content bank. The reason it's called a content bank and not just a question bank is that actually it doesn't have to contain questions. It can contain, we've seen customers setting up a sequence of videos in there and that they're selecting videos at random, but more often than not it's used as question bank. So I can say add a content bank. First thing I'm going to do is give it a name. I'll just call it question bank 1. And it's going to create this as a topic down here. Just let's add in another one quickly. So add another content bank. Call this QB2 for question bank 2. Now we need to actually populate our question banks with some questions. So let's just jump in here and just delete that default screen. And I'm just going to add in a couple there. And let's go to the question section. And I'm just going to drop in some question types in there. I'm not going to spend time setting them up. So we'll have multiple choice that we've used before. We'll have select from list that we've used before. Oops, I go to the second screen. And okay, let's move these around. So multiple choice, now second screen, select from list. And there we go. So this is our first question bank with 2 questions in. Let's save that, close it. Let's go into our second question bank and we'll add in 3 questions into this one. of different question types. So add in 3 screens. And now quickly drop in some variations here. So I'm going to put in, say, the first one is going to be drag and drop. Second one, and we've got this wide range of different question types, a graphical version of the multiple choice question. And finally here, let's go back in here. We'll have, say, a drop down on graphic type. So I've got 3 questions there. So I've got 5 questions in total. Let's quickly have a look at how we add that into assessment. So I'm going to go back into my assessment topic. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of our fixed questions that we added there, because we're actually going to be pulling in the questions from the question bank. So we'll get rid of those. Now I'm going to add in, again, a special screen. At the bottom left here, it says Add Content Bank. Again, this does the hard work for us. This is here going to bring in questions from the question bank. So all I do there is just click Configure. Now, let's have a look at this. It's actually realized I've got 2 question banks that I call QB1, QB2. So I can choose to include those in the assessment. It knows that there are 2 screens, 2 questions in there. So I can say, well, I want to pull in 2 questions from there. And also I want to randomize the screen order so it doesn't just show them in the same order each time. Also I want to select from question bank 2. It knows that I've got 3 questions, but I'm going to say I only want to select 2 questions because I want 4 questions at random. And I can randomize those. I'm also going to randomize the order so it can switch from choosing one from question bank 1, then question bank 2, and so on. So it can really mix it about. Okay, let's go in here and let's just have a look at how our quiz works now. So here we go. Click to start the quiz. Now here, randomly, it's selected that first question from the second question bank. Move on to the next one. It's now gone to the first question in the first question bank. Move on. It's now gone to the second question in the second question bank. So it's asked me 3 questions. So I should just see one more question. So it's gone back to question bank 1. So it's asked me 4 questions. And now we get the results screen. So only because I'd only asked for 2 questions from each question bank there, and it's mixed them about. So that's the way that you can use question banks. Really powerful feature there, and well worth exploring if you haven't done so already.